Thank you, Nate. Welcome, everybody. First off, I always forget this. I'd like to thank NSCA and TSAC for having me once again. I know I get some bad reviews from some people out there, but and also some great reviews. So I appreciate that. Second of all, my wife. She's not here. She's home with our two children, holding down the fort. Married for 10 years. She's kind of let me live the dream for over 20 years. So that's a big thing. So if you're not married, get married. It's good. Well, welcome, Tactical Combine, What It Takes to Become an Operator. It's a flashy title. In this generation, day and age, we're in an analytical stage. Analytics are going everywhere. NFL is starting to make its way in. Obviously, baseball, Moneyball, it's a big topic. So hopefully this presentation goes over a little bit of what we have on assessments and some statistics on what it takes to become an operator. First of all, we go through an assessment. So this is the best definition that I can give you as an assessment. The evaluation or estimation of the nature, quality, or ability of someone or something. When you break this down, we look at the evaluation or estimation. That's what I see. So when we do an assessment, it's not exact science. Trust me, I would love to have an assessment where it's in a medical lab, everything's perfect, wind conditions, air temperature, perfect flooring. It's not going to happen in the tactical setting. So when we look at that key word of estimation is what you want. It's not going to be exact, so you have to understand where that estimation is coming from and how to dictate that or predict it. So as we go through, when I first arrived at Range 9, we sit there and we had to come up with an assessment. So basically a tactical combine per se, and me and my group, myself and the PT at the time, we sat down in this cell block cubicle on the compound, and this is what we came up with. So we go through this slide. It says, do not reproduce, focus on attributes. Now this goes to coaches. Your job as a coach, even in the NFL, NBA, is not to do a skill set. I don't teach a receiver how to catch a ball. I don't teach a lineman how to block, but my job is to make him better at that skill set. So when we do an assessment, don't focus on reproducing on field or a tactical assessment to where they're running through the trees, doing cartwheels, climbing up. That's part of it, but it can't be everything. So as we go down this list, we sat down, okay, what does it take to become an operator? So you have agility, power, strength, muscle endurance, power endurance, medium endurance, long endurance. I've said, if you've heard me talk this before, it is the hardest thing to train a soldier. A football player, a baseball player, it's easy because it's literally one track, we go with it. A football player, no play lasts longer than 4 yards. If it does, either something really good happened or really bad happened. The tactical field, these guys are triathletes. It's hard. You got to train them. They got to be good at everything. They have to run fast. They have to jump far. They have to jump high. They have to carry a lot of weight. They have to be durable, resilient. There's a lot to a tactical soldier to train. As we go through, you can see the agility, 5-10-5, broad jump, deadlifts, muscle endurance. Now, power endurance, this was kind of the PT. You know, he wanted his CrossFit up there, the Linda. Some of it, we do the Jonestown Sprint. That's actually a great workout to kind of gauge a guy right away. It's quick, it's easy. It's over in about 5 minutes or less. And then also we have the General Army standards. Next, if you know me and if you know my coaching style, keep it simple. All right, we're in a generation of overstimulation. Coaches, perfect body, perfect scenarios, it doesn't happen. My experience is when we go through assessments is you want that assessment to have the raw number. You want that athlete or that soldier to give you a true number through that assessment. So this is a perfect example. When I arrived, our agility assessment was the Illinois agility test. Okay, if you've ever done this, and I will go on record, this is the worst agility test to have unless you want to confuse somebody. So if we look at this, we start in this lower left cone, you sprint 10 yards to the upper left cone, sprint back down to the center cone, circle, weave, in and out, circle, weave, in and out, circle, weave, and out, back to the upper right cone, and then we finish to the bottom right cone. Now, obviously, I butchered that in an explanation, and then we have task conditions and standards, so I sit there and I will read this, and I will look at the group I'm assessing, and they all have that puppy dog, cross-faced. What are we doing? First guy goes, and I guarantee you, they trip cones, it goes over, reset, restart. So again, am I getting a true realistic number of that person's agility? No. So, we switched it to the pro agility, 5, 10, 5. If we look at that, it's simple, it's short, it's sweet, and it gives me a solid base and a solid number to go on. Now, everybody's like, well, that's an NFL combine thing. Yes, but who did the presidential fitness test when they were younger? Everyone remembers the erasers? Guess what that was? A 5, 10, 5. All right, you were at a young age doing a 5, 10, 5, so there's some familiarity with that assessment. And so therefore, it's a lot easier to do a 5, 10, 5. Start, 5 yards, 10 yards, finish. All right, we'll kind of describe that a little more as we go on. Next, I might get in trouble for this a little bit too. The new APFT is kind of a hot topic right now. We talk about time, space, and equipment. So when we're formulating an assessment, you want to think about those 3 items. Time, how much time do you have? We have a rule that we like to stay in 60 minutes or under to assess. It's similar to like somebody going in a classroom. They need stimulation for about 60 minutes. Anything past that, you might gain a couple, but I'm not going to keep everybody. For instance, this presentation, if I was to go the full 80 minutes I think I have right now, I'd probably lose most of you around 45, 50 minutes. And then you'd be courteous enough just to keep your head down and be like, please end this right now. All right, I've been there, I know. So time, we look at how much time we have, that 45 hour, that's kind of the space or the time range you want to stay in. Space, this is a big thing for us. We have a lot of soldiers, a lot of operators. Space, we're always wanting space. So in this room, if I was to assess all of you right now in this room, do you think we could do it? I say majority of us, yes, because we would arrange the space, but you have to understand there are restrictions. We have restrictions. These couple pictures here, I think this top right and this bottom left, that's us. This is the new APFT. What you don't see in this picture is if I did a wide angle and kind of scanned what that was, there's probably about 10 deadlift bars set up. And at each deadlift station, there's this many men waiting to do this 3 rep max. Somewhere in this corner over here is me with my arms crossed, tapping my foot, wanting the administrators of this assessment to take charge and to hurry this thing up. Because right now, again, if you can't see this man right here, his arms crossed, best Ranger winner last year, he had a conversation, he just looked at me and rolled his eyes. And right there, I've lost that assessment because he's gone. Mentally, he's not into it. All he can think about is what? Hey, can we get this thing over with? You know, I'm not going to get the best effort out of that man. Same thing down here. We look at space. This is out in our open field. Again, this guy in the red shirt back here is me with my arms crossed. Because this explanation, if you haven't done the new APFT, this is the overhead med ball toss. So it's literally a 30-second explanation, and it confuses our guys. Where to me, I wish I had it, I don't. It's a med ball toss, but you cannot leave your feet before the ball leaves your hands. So that line definitely confused our guys. So all these men are doing a med ball toss, trying to keep their feet on the ground. Where I'm trying to explain to them at this time is, hey, it's physically impossible for you to explode and to jump. That ball is out of your hands before your feet leave the ground. So this assessment, to me, is null and void. So if I test these guys, I give them the rules. The first time they're going to give me that assessment, I get their numbers. What's going to happen the next time? I'm going to look like a genius because I'm going to teach them, jump, leave your feet. So from that first version to the second version or reiteration, I'm going to gain probably 20% improvement. So when I report these numbers, I'm going to look like the best strength coach in the world. When the reality of it is they just learned how to do the assessment. So we go back to that point to keep it simple. You want true numbers. You want real measurements of what that person is doing and what they're not doing. Next one is equipment. So again, we go back to the new APFT. Our assessment is very equipment light. That's the big thing with us, is when you do an assessment, we can do the majority of our assessment in this room with a stopwatch and a couple of cones. The new APFT, they spent, I believe, I talked to the person that was there, they have a Connex over here. They spent about $20,000 in equipment just to do the assessment. Not to mention to set it up. So you think about 10 bars, 300 pounds on a bar, sleds, 10 med balls. This upper left picture is the sled version. I don't have the exact, but it's an obstacle course is I think what they want to call it. But it's very equipment heavy, so there's kettlebells. It's intensive. So in order for me to set it up as a coach, it's probably going to take me a good hour to get it set up before the assessment and to produce it. So again, think about equipment. Also, with equipment comes cost. Equipment isn't cheap. If you're in the military, who's military here? Most people. If you're in the military, it takes a while to get equipment. And obviously, when you have equipment, you're gonna break it. It's the military. We break stuff. That's what we're born to do. Last tip, obsession with assessments. So my wife's an educator, and she's in the schools, and they assess. Washington State's a real big assessment education. What we call this is the obsession flu. So a lot of people get caught up with, man, I need to assess. But what happens with assessments is you don't take time to develop. So Vern Gambetta, he had a good line, is as a coach, I can give you results. Within a time frame, I might give you 5%. I know if I'm really good, I can give you up to 8, 9, maybe 10%. But what I cannot do is I cannot speed up development. No matter how I train, no matter how crazy I am, how good am I designing at workouts, I cannot make you develop in 4 weeks when your body is going to take 12 weeks. I can't. If you can, let me know, because that's the magic. But so when we come in and people want an assessment, you have to give it time. So our recommendation, 10 to 12 weeks. Usually that's our assessments. I think we do it twice a year. But when we go into that assessment, it doesn't mean you have to have a full-blown standards week. We assess during our workouts. So we call them partial assessments. So a lot of times after our workouts, we'll do, all right guys, we're going to do 1 set of max push-ups. And it's a little bit of a Jedi mind trick. Most of the guys are, well, I can pump this out. And what I have them do is we time it, 2 minutes, and we record the score. But what they don't know is I just assess them at the end of a workout. I can go back and be like, okay, this is where we assessed 4 weeks ago. They did 48 push-ups. Now he's at 49 or 50, or he's at 47. All right, as long as we're within that 5-10% range, we know we're on track. Now, if he does 30, that's when we go back to our training and we figure something else out. A lot of factors go into play with that. Next thing that we also do is we don't assess. On normal training, is we know our progression so well that I know in about 8 weeks I can bump up 5%. Your maxes are now 5% better. So we instantly calculate those out, and they're pushed to the guys. We don't need a test. It goes back to the next fact, injury rehab assessments we do more frequently, because that's a different ball game, because we don't know how that person is going to respond from that trauma. So when we assess, it's more frequent, it's probably about once a month on an injury assessment, obviously depending on the injury. And the last factor we already went over a little bit, let the athlete develop. That's the biggest thing. Every brief I have, every meeting I have with a coach, officer, leadership, it always comes down to this statement. Well, I want my guys bigger, faster, and stronger. Like, I don't even go to meetings anymore because I start off like, let me guess, you want them faster, bigger, and stronger? Like, yeah, how can you do it? Like, okay, give me 12 weeks and let's go. But everybody has the same goal. If it's a soldier, if it's an athlete, if you're a recreational athlete, you always want to get bigger, faster, stronger. Now, you might want to say leaner. Now, that's kind of the trend nowadays. But we have to have time. An 18-year-old young man is not going to develop in 3 months. He's not going to be able to do what a 34-year-old man's going to do. It's science. It's not going to happen. So give them time. Make sure your assessments aren't too close, because if I assess one guy and then 2 weeks later I'm like, hey, I want to assess, and we assess him 2 weeks later and he gives me results, chances are he's not going to see much improvement. And as a coach, as a trainer, you're going to lose that athlete because they want to see results. So again, you have to keep them motivated. All right, on to the meat and potatoes. I know everybody, this is what you're here for. So this is our assessment. This is what we run through. A 5, 10, 5 agility test. I'll go through it kind of how we explained to you guys. We start with this middle cone. You straddle the line. You have to have one hand touching the line. Doesn't matter right or left. You're going to go on your own movement. That stopwatch starts. You sprint over 5 yards. So, oh, my bad. We sprint over 5 yards, touch the cone. You have to touch that line with your hand. Sprint 10 yards, touch that far line with your hand, and then sprint through the start-finish line. We do one try to the right, one try starting to your left. The biggest error that we see is men do not sprint to this line. We try to tell them sprint to the far cone. Pretty simple test. After a couple times, they get used to it. The mean scores that we've had in the last few years is 4.96 seconds. Under 5. So if we go back to that first slide when we said, hey, what's our objectives? What do we want these guys to achieve? It's under 5 seconds. So right now, box is checked. We did that. Record time, 4.30. If you can imagine, this was an ex-Division I football player that we had. Receiver, great athlete. But this is also his 8th year in the Army. So he's adapted, because I believe he said he was under 4.0 in college, as we all were. Next one we do is a 300-yard shuttle. So this is a tip that I learned very long ago from one of my great mentors, is a conditioning test is not how far you run. A conditioning test is starting and stopping. That's a true test of a conditioning test. So when we sat down and we modified this raw assessment, or our assessments, the initial 300-yard shuttle was, I believe, 50 yards down and back. So we start on the line, we run 50 yards, you touch the line, so down and back is 3 times would be a 300-yard shuttle. Well, we go back to, again, one of those earlier slides, time, space, and equipment. 50 yards is a pretty long stretch. But what if we cut that in half? Now we double the start-stops, which is what we want in a conditioning test, and we shrink down the space. So we could almost do, I don't know the measurements of the room, we could almost do a 300-yard shuttle in this room. 25 yards, down back is 1, 6 times equals 1 300 shuttle. We take a 2-minute break, and we repeat the whole shuttle over again. As we go through assessments, if I'm grading it, I'm yelling out the lead lap, because they'll forget. They'll be like, what lap am I on? We'll go 1, so we count the lead man, 1, 2, 3, and on the 6th one, we start yelling out times, 54, 55, 56, 57. They have 2 minutes after that, they take a break. A lot of times we try to teach them some recovery, because most of them are on hands and knees, soaking up a lot of oxygen, and then we do it again. So if we look at the mean, 68 mode, 68, so what that tells me is we're fairly consistent. So when those two numbers match, we're doing good. The record, so 53 seconds. So +1 means he did 53 seconds the first one, and his second one was 54 seconds. Now I know what you're all thinking in your mind, like I can do this. You can, but it's tough. All right, I guarantee you most of you are probably going to go home, and I hope you try to do this, but that is fast. 53 is fast. If you talk to our men about which assessment they hate the most, it's going to be a 300-yard shuttle. They would rather do a 12-mile ruck march than 2 300-yard shuttles. Because when we say this, you should see, you've seen grown men cringe. So if you see the salt of the earth, the warriors of America, you say 300-yard shuttle, and there's a twitch. Broad jump. So we talk about power. How do we measure power? Well, we do power cleans. I mean, power cleans I've taught on power cleans. Power cleans is a very complex movement, everybody knows. So again, we talk about how do I get a good measure. So a broad jump is what we came up with. Another one that we discussed is a vertical jump. But a vertical jump, we go back to, I think, the third slide, time, equipment, and space. If I do a vertical jump, that means I have to get their reach. Now, everybody knows what happens when you do a reach, is they cheat it. They figure out the system. So they'll be up there, all right, reach as high as you can, and you see that shoulder girdle kind of suck in, and they'll do this. right? And then you do a vertical jump test, and congratulations, you have a 30-inch vert, where realistically it's probably a 26. NFL Combine, we've been there, we literally have a stick, and you're literally, like, I'm gonna say this, you're literally hitting the guy on the side, and you're pulling his arm up to get a true reach. Because they try to cheat the chest too, because they know what's at stake. So again, getting a reach, that's hard, it takes time, it takes equipment. If I do a vertical leap, I have to have either a wall with measurements on it, or I think we use a just jump mat now, or the little peg thing. So a broad jump is what we decided. Big thing with a broad jump is it's standing, so we don't let the feet shuffle. Next thing that we also teach is you have to land and stick it. So we think Olympic gold medalists, they have to stick it. There's obviously a gray area there. It's dependent on the assessor. I have a white knuckle rule that you can land, you can slightly touch the ground, but if you put pressure on that hand, that jump is null and void. We take the measurement off the furthest heel, and what we have, 91 inches, 92 inches, so again, we're right there in that zone. The record is 123. So for a soldier, that's pretty good. Three rep max deadlift. So this one's gone back and forth. Does anybody know how deadlift came about? So this is the purest military lift you can have. In Roman times, after the battlefield, they were called deadlifters. These men, women, were responsible to going out after the battlefield and lifting up dead bodies. Like that was their name, deadlifters. So it's fitting. It should be in our assessments. But again, we're using 90% of our muscles on a 3-rep max deadlift. It's the purest measure that we can get to a full body strength movement that we have. Now, is there dangers involved into it? Yes. People get hurt doing deadlifts. That's what coaches are for. That's why we do the trap bar. It's a lot different than a straight bar. Big thing is we try to, a big stickler with us is we warm up. So they're required to do a 135, a 185, a 225 before they even go to 300. They're required to go that. So when we have it set up, I think we have 8 bars. The first 3 bars are warm-up bars. After that, they just kind of go from bar to bar to bar, so it's just a line, a revolving line. They can take their time. A coach is there. If we see any compromised form, we stop them, be like, you're done. You're done. Because we have that saying, you can't make the club in the tub. You can be the greatest soldier in the world, but if you're not soldiering, you're not helping. So make sure we warm up. 331, 375, most common score. So right now I can tell you is we talk about that, let that athlete develop. That our score is a little bit lower because we have a lot of young men. They don't lift in basic training and RASP. You know, it's get through it. They're a little bit depleted, so obviously we want to get them to that 375. The record's 530. I believe we have 4 or 5 guys that put that amount, and usually I'll be 100% honest with you, is we stop them. Because just like anything else, you showed me you can lift 500 pounds, we're good to go. We need you to, obviously if you're lifting that much, you're probably one of our top guys, we need you out there. Heel clap. If you've never done a heel clap, I suggest you do. I've never done a heel clap until I joined the tactical field. Is when they said this is part of our assessment, I kind of laughed and chuckled like, oh, we should do sit-ups and Russian twist and planks. And they're like, just try it. I literally did a heel clap. The next 2 days, it hurt so bad to cough, to talk. My abs were shot. So it is literally the full core exercise. It has some application to actually what we really do. On an assessment, no, it is the hardest one to grade because guys like to cheat. But it requires so much energy that if they do cheat, chances are they're only going to get 1 or 2 extra reps before their body fails them. So the big thing is your bar. So there's a bar, obviously. You have to have your arms at 90 degrees or more. Once that elbow breaks more than 90, that assessment is over. So I always tell guys, hey, if you grab the bar, you tuck your chin, and you flex your arms, and you keep it tight, this is the best way to go. Your heels have to raise up to above the bar that your hands are on, and you have to lower. There's no rocking, there should be a pause, there should be no swinging. And it's very hard. Right away, if you do one, you can see if a soldier can activate his core or if they start kicking their legs. So right away, it's a great assessment to see if they're athletic or if they can move efficiently. Mean 17, 21, and the record's 41. So again, I challenge everybody to do this at home, and if you get above 20, congratulations. That's a great number. It's a very hard assessment tool. Metronome push-ups. This is a big thing. I'm a fan of metronome push-ups because it actually stabilizes. It gives you, again, a true result. I think this is the one great thing, so I will give the APFT, is they do what's called a T push-up, is where you push up, you come down the ground, you raise your hands off the ground, you touch out to the side like a T, and you come back in to do a push-up. It's actually a great push-up. I hope, if anything comes out of that, I hope it's the T push-up. Metronome, if you don't know what a metronome push-up is, it's on a 60-second metronome. So every movement should be a second. So if it's a beep, you should be up, beep, down, beep, up, beep, down. We go through it so it gives us a true result of what we're trying to test. It limits the cheating, the short range, the short push-ups, the super fast push-ups, the non-extension. Because if you have to pause for a second, it's a lot easier to lock out, pause, than to halfway it. 39 and 40, so again, we go back to that slide. We were thinking, hey, anything above 40 is where we want our guys to be. So again, that box has been checked. We've met that requirement. The record, 101. I know what you're thinking, impossible. I said the same thing. I was going through scores, and this young man came up with this score, and I was like, impossible. So if we have a new record, we have a rule that you have to come over to the facility and you have to prove it. So if you have to do a 53-second shuttle, guess what? Congratulations, you've won a trip to do it again. So I hunt this young man down. I find him. I'm like, hey, I believe you owe me 101 push-ups. He literally is like, you want to do them now or you want to do them later? I was like, well, right now is good. The young man pulls out his phone, sets the metronome, and whips out 101 push-ups. If you've ever seen The Green Mile, where the guy coughs out pain, that's what this young man did. He would sit there on the beat, look over to the left, give me a smirk, and just cough, and then go right back into it. Absolutely amazing. So every time I saw that young man for a good 4 years, he would do them for me. Hey, you still good? Coach, I got you. And would just go. Mind you, this is also a man that we caught lifting with no shirt on in the weight room on a weekend. So, tells you a little bit there. Great kid. Next one, pull-ups. A little bit different standard than what we do. The military, the PT test is an underhand, what we call chin-up in our facility. A pull-up's going to be an overhand thumbless grip. Big thing is we don't do kipping. It's a all the way down extension, chin above the bar. The reason why we did a thumbless grip is when you're climbing a wall, which we tend to do a lot, you can't wrap your thumb around the wall. So again, we look at that grip strength. 16, 21, and 40. Now 40 is a great record. The most I've ever seen professionally or collegiately has been 50. But mind you, this was a young man who had alignment on his back and can do a pull-up. So to me, 20 is great. We go back to that slide, anything 10 or above. The General Army standards, I believe it's 6, which to me is a little bit bogus. I feel that should be higher with the posterior chain, but that's not for me to decide. 2-mile run. This is the hardest thing to train. It's a middle distance run, as we call it. It's not a 5-mile, it's not a 400-meter, it's 2 miles. So we have standards. So in a 5-mile, we always explain it, in a 5-mile, you can make up some time from a bad mile. If I run one 7-minute mile in a 5-mile, I can make it up in the course over 4 miles, 4 extra miles. A 2-mile is tough because you have to go. It's right off the bat, you're going. So our average time, 12 minutes and 15 seconds, so that's just over a 6-minute mile. The best that we've had is a 10:05, and when that young man finished, I asked him, hey, what's your record? He wouldn't tell me. I go, well, did you run the hardest you can? He's like, no, I didn't want to embarrass anybody. So I believe he would be under, a 10-minute mark. So again, that's moving. So you take across all these requirements. I'll brief this, and if you have some distance runners, they'll be like, oh, that's easy. Like, yeah, but you also understand that man just lifted 375 pounds. He also did 20 pull-ups. He also did 17 heel claps. He also did a sub 5 second 5-10-5. So again, if we look at these individually, oh yeah, I can do that. You combine it, it's a whole nother ball game. 12-mile ruck. 2 hours and 45 minutes is our standard, it's our average time. Record, 1 hour 38. This was achieved, I believe, about a month ago. Now this old man sitting here on this stage decided to get frisky, and we had a 12-mile ruck, and of course, type A personalities. Carroll, can you do it? I can do anything, man. Next thing you know, I'm rucking, not very smart. I did it. It's tough. 12 miles is tough. It's just like running a marathon, but if you don't know what a 12-mile ruck is, you have a backpack, you're in your OCPs, you're in your boots, you have a jacket on, and you're rucking 12 miles. And it's a fast pace. So if you're shorter, it's tough. If you're short like me, it's easier for me to almost run 12 miles than to ruck at that ruck pace. It wreaks havoc on your joints, and it's not very fun. 1 minute 38, this young man he took off and ran the whole thing. Finished it, threw off his ruck, and just sat there. Didn't breathe hard, wasn't dying. I'm sure he probably could do it faster if he really, really trained to it, but that's fast. So again, try a 12-mile ruck if you want. You can borrow my rucksack. Just send me your email address. Ranger physical assessment. So we go back to that first slide that says do not reproduce, focus on attributes. This is our one reproduced event. So what it is, the Ranger physical assessment test, the RPAT as we call it, is the uniform attire is, again, OCPs, boots, plate carrier with plates in it, niche, helmet, or ops core. Some guys wear gloves, some guys don't wear gloves. You start out, it's a 2-mile run. You enter to the event course, it's a 20-foot rope, these are out of order, sorry, or they are. It's a 20-foot rope climb. After the 20-foot rope climb, we go to, I don't have it up here, it's a 185-pound sled drag, 100 meters. So you have this sled, basically it's equivalent to carrying a body. It's flat, and they're basically going 50 meters down, 50 meters back. After that, they have a 20-foot climb on a caving ladder. If you've never done a caving ladder, it looks easy until you get on it. It's very wobbly, it's wires. It takes some core activation. After the caving ladder, it's a 200-meter sprint, which is usually a slow jog because they're about to throw up at that time. Coming into a 8-foot wall, which is what we call the fly swatter. So if we look at a wall, everybody kind of goes, oh, it's 8 feet. It's not that bad. It's probably where I'm at right now, my height, jumping over that. It's not that bad. But then you add kit, and then you add these previous events, and you'd be amazed at how many men that wall crushes. Literally, it's a fly swatter. They come running up to it, they hit that wall, they hang on it for a second, and then they just fall off. So again, it goes back to that pull-up, the assessments that we have. After the wall, you enter into the death mile, which is your final mile. So again, you run one more mile in kit, and we come back. Now I'm 31, so the cutoff time is 40 minutes. That's when you fail. If you don't do an event, or if you fail an event, you fail the RPAT. So you have to complete it. There's no time penalties. We started out with that. And then what we found out is that guys would not do any of the field events and just take the time penalty and just continue to just run 3 miles to get a score. So it goes against, again, that assessment. The record has changed. As I believe 2 weeks ago, it is now at 20 minutes and 40 seconds. Again, I know I briefed this and everybody doesn't have the context to it, but that is fast. So if you think about carrying about 40 pounds of kit, running 5.5 minute, 5:40 mile, plus spending 3.5 minutes in the field events, that's flying. So I think we were just talking about earlier today, I think a sub 20 minute is possible. If you asked me 2010, I'd be like, no way. So again, that's a tremendous time. Warning, or nope, not yet. So we go back to kind of a review. So this is what we come up with. This is an operator or a soldier. I stay away from the term tactical athlete now because I have a sergeant major who basically hates the term tactical athlete because he's a soldier. That's what he is. And I kind of agree with that because he's like, I don't look up to athletes. I'm a soldier. That's what I joined to be. So it's hard for me not to say tactical athlete, but it makes sense now. This field has come a long way. I'm going to get in my soapbox a little bit. So just remember, just call them soldiers. They might be athletic, but they're not athletes. They're soldiers. So we should speak and talk to them that they're equal to athletes, if not better than athletes. So again, when we use that term, understand the effects of it. 5'10", so a little bit taller than me, weight 184, 185 pounds. This might shock people, 13.5% body fat. He's like, oh, blasphemy, you guys are chunky. Well, guess what? If you're out in the field, what do you need to survive? Body fat. If you need to go to Ranger School, guess what you need to have? Body fat. It's all been proven. If I have a guy who is at 3 to 5%, physiologically, he might have some genetic freak in him that he might maintain that, but chances are he's the first one falling out of a ruck. Because he's bodybuilding, all he cares about is me instead of that performance. So to me, that 13.5%, that's realistic. That's what we want. Most of you probably don't know if you go out or in this room, you can look to your right or left, you won't know if that man's an operator. I know there's operators in this room, but you can't pick them out. You might be able to, but you don't know. That's what we want. It's not a universal soldier. Jean-Claude Van Damme's not going to walk in here and you're all going to be like, that's what a soldier looks like. Yeah, I guarantee you your best offensive lineman doesn't walk into the room and be like, that is the best offensive lineman in the world. No, it's a short, stocky guy who just has fight. So again, 13.5 bar set. He has to lift 400 pounds. So that's kind of the equation. We talk about that 3-rep deadlift max, do a 1-rep, 400 pounds. So we look at our combat load, our mission type. It doesn't have to lift it all the time, but he has to be able to lift it once. So chances when adrenaline's pumping, he's in the middle of the event, he'll be able to lift 400 pounds. So again, we go back to that 315, 375 mark. Run, a 6:30 mile. Pretty decent. Ruck, a 12-minute mile. Again, that's moving. And carry 185 pounds. Now, if none of you carried a small man on your back, it wears you down. So again, that range, it has to be 12 miles. Sometimes we go 20 miles. Sometimes we do 5 miles. But the middle of the road is about 10 miles with that ruck on. Now, I'm going to warn everybody, this next image could be disturbing for some of you. If it is, you can just close your eyes or you can walk out right now. Everybody good? All right, so this young man is 10 years old. His name is Drake Medinger. He lives in Texas, and he has leukemia. It's his second bout of leukemia. Now, I see this picture, and I almost tear up because I have children. And if you have children or no children or really close children, the last thing you want to see is this. Right? So this image to all of us, some of us put our heads down, that's fine. But it speaks to me, and it should hopefully speak to some of you. It hits a chord. So this is what his mom has quoted. This is him telling me, Mommy, I'm not going to make it. This is him not wanting to be touched because it hurts too much and using morphine to get through his day. This is him telling me he's scared and he thinks he won't see his 11th birthday. This is him and me telling him that I will continue to fight for him when he can't. So his mom received a lot of flack about this because she posted this on her Facebook page. And they're like, how dare you embarrass this young man? And basically her quote was to this picture was, this is life. This is life. So I can sit here and talk about analytics, physical requirements, what it takes to be an operator, what you need to run, how far you need to go. It doesn't matter because the greatest one of these is what this young man has. All right? And that's heart. I can't measure heart. So when I say heart, it's not about, hey, this man's really nice, he has a great heart. It's resilient. It's courage. It's toughness. It's to fight the fight. It's to fight the fight for somebody that they can't fight themselves. So again, this is a quote from his mom. Each day you show me your generous heart, wicked humor, and courageous mind. I can't say that any better at what heart is. So again, I sit down in meetings, and a lot of coaches, a lot of leadership will be like, well, how do we get them heart? As a coach, as our profession, our job is to figure out how to relate to your soldiers, to your athletes, to who you train. That's the greatest job that you can do. It's not about assessing. It is needed. But you need to figure out how you can reach them to make their assessments better. It's not sitting up with a clipboard. It's not the NFL Network, the Underwear Olympics. It's about reaching your clientele, the people who you train. I can tell you this right now, the men that produce the best scores on here don't do well if they don't have heart. Now, are you born with it? Yes, you might be predisposed depending on your background, where you've come from. Is it trainable? Darn right it's trainable. In the Army, they call it resiliency training. All right? The men I work with are some of the toughest men in the world, but you would never know it. Okay? They're special people. So people like Drake, this is a picture on his 11th birthday. He still has leukemia. He's still going through chemo. He's still throwing up every day. If you want, he has a Facebook page. It's called Stinky Joe's Pit Crew. His mom knows that he's a geek. You know, there's a picture of him doing rehab. But this kid has heart. He doesn't know it. He doesn't identify it. But he has it. Okay, so as a coach, as somebody who wants to better people, I will take Drake over Jean-Claude Van Damme and Universal Soldier any day. Because guess what I can do with Drake? I can let him develop. I can have time. I can make him better. Is he going to reach those numbers? Maybe, maybe not. But I know he's not going to quit on me. And I know he's going to produce with all he has. And as a coach, that's all you can ask for. And that's your job when you do assessments and you coach, is to combine those two together. So again, thank you. I don't know where the time is I'm on this. I might be a little bit short, but we'll open up for questions about assessments, testing, combines, life. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll throw a question at you. You got me thinking in regards to some of the agility assessments or whatever. In the literature, researchers, practitioners, there's an argument whether some of those things correlate to on the field. That's not the kind of the purpose of my question, but what you got me thinking in regards to the shuttle, something that we've been doing since elementary school. Just thinking, moving forward, kind of where would you see some of these assessments going in regards to help bridge the gap between whether these assessments correlate with things that are actually happening out on the field in the.
So the question was, I have to repeat it for the camera, is how do we take these assessments and correlate it to the field? That's a great question. And that's kind of, again, the magic bullet is we look at, again, we go back to that first slide, the attributes. You want to focus on football, being a soldier, you're going to have cutting. So when we look at that, we analyze a time. If there's a certain time, we know that they're sufficient in some way, but we also look at them. Are they moving well? Is there ankle stability? Is there hip stability? Is there core stability? Is it shoulder stability? Is it shoulder mobility? So within those assessments, it's not just numbers, it's the art of coaching. Again, I'll preach it to the day I die. If you can coach, you're going to be okay. Coaches are needed. What we can't do is be completely analytical and forget about coaching. Does that answer it?
Yeah, I was just thinking again, moving forward, we've been doing pro agility since elementary school.
So another test?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of opening it up, I don't know.
There is. You can, depending on where you're at, I know the law enforcement test, fire test is completely different, but we want to look at the goal. What's agility? What's agility? It's movement side to side. It's multi-directional. It's planes. So a 5-10-5 hits it real short, real quick. Another one that's a good one is a T-test. You know, you run up, run right, run left, and sprint back. There's a turn involved into it. There's a lot of agility tests. I'm not going to say which one's better. I just know the 5-10-5. If it ain't broke, like, don't fix it.
Yeah, if I may add, one of the reasons for the 5-10-5 and 300-yard shuttle is because it's an assessment or a test, our guys are competitive and they're going to train. So if they don't have the agility or lateral movement and they're not training when they get on target, they're not ready to move laterally. So this at least gets them to add it to their training because they know they're going to be assessed.
Just go on what Dr. Dave Myers said. When we look at these assessments and what we do is if you look at the general Army, it's all straightforward. It's a 2-mile run, a ruck, push-ups, sit-ups. There's no multi-directional. So if I go back to that Illinois agility test, our men aren't ready for that. If we simply do a lot of times in our workout, and it's elementary, it's just a 10-yard shuffle. What they do, we set 2 cones up, you have 10 touches, shuffle side to side. They will come in the next morning more sore than they did 500 pounds of deadlift, just because our men aren't trained to do that. Now, how do you apply it in the field? Well, we clear houses, we jump out of planes. If you ever watched an event, we don't go in a straight line when we attack. It's always this. So we train this, but if you're in a tactical setting, please train this. It's very simple to do. It doesn't take too much. Great question. Any other questions?
Is there
Sorry.
a particular reason why the deadlift is used in the assessment instead of the squat?
Injury risk. A back squat scares us because it puts that on that spine. Our men, we compress that spine daily. We jump out of planes. So a trap bar deadlift, I don't have the statistical data. It's safer. It puts them in a better, proper position. And it's more universal to teach, easier to teach. A back squat, there's so many variations of form. So it's tough to have that consistent level. Trust me, I was scared of the deadlift too, just because it is a compound movement. There's a lot of joints involved, but it's a lot easier to be, you're done. Because that guy can just drop the bar. A back squat, again, time, 2 spotters, 1 spotter, equipment damage. There's a lot of little factors that go into that.
Thank you. I was just curious what the ruck load was on the draw.
The ruck load, I believe, is 35 pounds dry. So most guys head out. I guess the question is, what's the weight on the ruck march? 35 pounds dry. They used to carry about 5 pounds of water, 2 canteens. The non-smart ones will take their water and dump it out within the first 200 meters. And then at mile 8, you pass them and you're laughing because they're done. So you need water. Enjoyable? I'm keeping you here for the whole hour and 30 minutes. Informational? And remember that when we fill out these surveys. All right, well, I'm done. Again, thank you for coming. I'll be around for the rest of the day. Hopefully tomorrow morning, feel free to stop me, buy me a beer or some water, and have some more questions. Thank you.